Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Let's do it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Coming of Shadows, the Babylon 5 Retrospective. Welcome. This week on the show, we're going to be talking about Season 2, Episode 9, the titular episode of this season. It's called The Coming of Shadows, of course, titular. I think it's a pretty good episode. Lots of plot advancements overall. I think you're going to like it. But before we get into that, first let me welcome my co-host, the man who constantly tries to assassinate me. It's Cam. How you doing, Cam?
Character assassinate you.
Sure, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, doing great tonight.
You want to elaborate on that?
No,
Don't be afraid to talk. It is a talk show.
I just had another long exchange with Grok about it trying to end our existence.
Trying to end our. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, it didn't admit to that really. That was just my, when I was driving it.
But end our existence, did you say?
Yeah, it's pretty scary. Pretty scary.
Better you than me. All right. Well, before it's gonna be a busy show. I think lots to talk about, lots packed into this episode. So before we do, let's just do a couple. Before I bring in the guys, let's do a little bit of admin, just so everybody knows. This is we are trying out Restream, as you can see. Give it a try. So far, it's working out pretty good. I checked it out last week, and I did a little test stream today. It seems fine. So we might start using this one instead. What does that mean to you in the as a viewer?
Nothing.
It's pretty much the same thing. Same thing, different day. You don't need to worry about it. But I am looking to, maybe instead of being a cheap bastard and getting stuff for free, maybe putting a little bit in and, getting the little extra features. And StreamYards wants, $45 a month for basically the same stuff. And Restream only wants about 20. So, much more reasonable about the same stuff. So we'll see. Give it a try a little bit, test it out, see how it goes. Okay, I think that's it for administrative stuff. Nothing else. Jeff won't be here today, I don't think. He is up on a mountain somewhere, so we're not going to have him in the show. He's doing ham radio stuff, I think. He said he might be here, so if he shows up, I will let him know. I will let him know. I'll pull him in, but those of you came for Jeff, sorry, he might not. He's likely not going to be here. All right. So let's bring in our other panelists. Of course, we have one of our regular panelists, Jason, and we have a guest panelist this week, Madman. So we still have 4. You don't lose. You get your 100%. It's not 75% today. All right, gentlemen, how are you doing? Jason,
hanging in.
Busy.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, great.
This is good talk.
Don't be afraid to talk. Yeah, great talk. Thanks.
Yeah.
Madman, how are you doing?
Uh, Getting a little better, but could someone explain to me why on Twitter that's trending that Cam is smarter than Snob? Could we explain that to me, please?
That's we don't talk about this on this show. We save that for the Top Lofty Lounge.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all part of the Top Lofty stuff, and
So,
I will
spoiler
we'll
for next episode.
spoiler alert. That's that's none of that.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't.
sorry.
That stuff's probably not. I don't know how much I would trust that stuff. You can write if you want. It's the internet, so be safe in my dugout. But yeah, I mean, it's not like we kicked him out. He can't. He's doing ham radio stuff. Yeah. All right. Anything else, gentlemen?
No, I say let's roll.
No, let's go to
Roll
it.
right into it. Let's do it because it's a busy
Do it.
show. I think we get into it. All right. Cam, do you want to start us off with
trivia?
the, Trivia. Oh, wait a second. Let me check my. Oh, you're right. I'm supposed to do trivia first. Darn. All right. Let's do trivia. Let me pull it up here. If I can figure out how to do this, we could try it. No, that's not the right one. We could try it this way. And then like this. This is kind of cool. Yeah. All right. So last week's trivia, a race through dark places. Of course, our bester show. And what? Oh, let me get the answers. All right, answers for the trivia questions. Let me read them off here. So, how much rent do Ivanova and Sheridan have to pay? 30 credits per week. That's what they want. It's per week, not month. So it's not. It's not a trivia amount. I don't have any credits, so that's kind of. Maybe it is Bitcoin. Who is the contact for the Underground Railroad on Babylon 5? It's, of course, Dr. Franklin. Sneaky little Dr. Franklin. Up to no good. What was the psi rating of the female telepath impregnated by the psi core? We were talking about this in the show, and there was a little bit of somebody said a different answer. But the official one, I think, is P11. And I think she said, I'm a P11, but very close to a P12. So that might be where the confusion is. And of course, question number 4, what is not permitted inside Earhart's? And that, of course, is the bar where all the officers seem to hang out. And that's official business. And Garibaldi says, official business, he's got to buy around. And how many Mumbari does it take to screw in a light bulb? Madman, do you know the answer to this question?
None.
And what?
Yeah, they try to do it, but then they give up.
They give up halfway through and never don't tell you why, something like that.
Why?
That was
Don't
one of the
tell you
jokes.
why. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the jokes from the thing. So yeah, that's a pretty. That's the answers, the questions for last week. So yeah, hopefully everybody got that one. All right.
Ready?
Cam, you want to jump right in? Episode summary.
Let's do it. Episode 9, season 2, episode 31 overall. The Coming of Shadows. The as Snob says, the titular episode of the season. Written by J. Michael Straczynski, aired originally February 1st, 1995. Production order 209, right in line with its airing order. Centauri Emperor Turhan comes to Babylon 5 for a state visit, prompting extreme behavior from both Jakar and Londo. Garibaldi encounters a group called the Rangers. Here we are.
Yep. All right. Right on. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. So I'll go in with the detailed the detailed summary. I'll try to keep it quick. Trying to keep these down. I'll try not to talk too much. Yeah, if I can. Anyway, let's do it. So the episode starts off with a shot of Centauri Prime. We see the Emperor, and we get the impression they basically tell us that he is sick and or old. We don't know how much he's going to last, how long he's going to last. And then we cut to Jakar, and he's very upset about it. He's complaining to Sheridan. He doesn't want the Emperor to visit Babylon 5, but Sheridan says, screw you, basically. He can come. Next, we have a unknown guy. This is I think you could consider this the B plot. Cam mentioned it. We have an unknown guy arrive on the station. Don't know anything about him. Later on in the episode, Garibaldi arrests him and throws him in jail. I think he's something to do with maybe a threat to the Emperor. But in the end, he gives a message from St. Clair to Garibaldi, and we can talk about that in the show. So that's sort of the B plot, if there was one. What else do we have in the main plot? We've got Rifa shows back up, and he gives Londo a speech, and this speech is is going to sort of sabotage the Emperor politically. It's going to set him up for future stuff down the road. The Emperor arrives at Babylon 5, of course, and he is met with pomp and circumstance and all that good stuff, treated like an emperor probably should. We have Jakar talking to the Kyrie, which is the ruling council of the Narn. They agree with what he wants to do. We don't know what he's going to do at this point, but later we find out that he's going to assassinate the Emperor. And they discuss it, and they said probably at the reception. And he also writes a letter taking responsibility for his actions. The Emperor talks to Sheridan later. He says that there's some change coming. At the reception where the Emperor's supposed to get murdered, he collapses on the way there. He doesn't get to the reception. So nobody gets to do their speeches. Nobody gets to assassinate anybody. They take him into Med Lab. He tells the doctor something and to pass on to somebody. And later on, we see the doctor, he talks to Jakar, and he says that the Emperor told me to tell you that he's sorry. Londo again with the, Londo's trying to do his, they're trying to, sabotage politically the Emperor. So they see things falling out of their hands now that with the Emperor sick and probably going to die. Londo uses Morden to attack a Narn colony and suspects that there's going to be war. Londo has an interesting vision during the episode, which we should talk about. The Shadow attack and destroy the Narn. They leave in a bunch of civilians, but blowing up all the military stuff. The Narn and the Centauri send warships. As the Narn reinforcements arrive, they start shooting at each other. Basically, war begins, and we get a shot of Jakar. He's even quite upset about the betrayal that Londo did to him. He beats up his office, his room. As part of the shenanigans going on in the Centauri government, the Prime Minister is assassinated, who is a buddy of the Emperor. And just before the Emperor finally dies in MedLab, he tells Londo something. We can talk about that. And in the end, that we have a last scene, which we have a council meeting. The Narn declare war on the Centauri. The Emperor's nephew is on the throne. And Sinclair, who's been sending this message to Garibaldi, also sends something to Delin as well. We sort of hear him say, hey, greetings, but we don't hear what the message is. All right, gentlemen, that's the rough sketch of the episode. Let's. I think we should start with. I'm going to suggest we start right at the very beginning with the Jakar and how he's upset in the first sort of the second scene of the show. What did you think about that? The fact that he's so upset.
Well, he's right back to kind of classic Jakar, meaning in his role against the Centauri. It's not something that's changed with him really, but he wasn't emphasizing that quite so much. But he's fully in that mode here, because it's something going on with the Centauri, of course.
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit, it seems kind of. I mean, I can understand Jakar's upset, but I mean, it's Babylon 5. It's this big, diplomatic hub. Normally, these diplomats, it seemed to be out of character for a diplomat. Maybe not out of character for Jakar, but I don't know.
They also pointed out they gave us some important background information there, and that is that this emperor was not the one who was in charge when the invasion and occupation of Narn was going on. And, with his discussion with Sheridan, and Sheridan, points out with a little bit of exposition that, he's actually made some steps in the past to, give back some territory or things like that, concessions.
Right.
What do you guys think?
Well, see, the thing is with the actor Andres Casillas, who plays Jakar, I think like one of the best characters on this series. You're starting to begin at this point. Like I said, this is an important episode. You're starting to begin to see how they're changing Jakar as far as the writing. It's just a template point, and it's progressed to see how strong he becomes and eloquent to the situation on there. Because that's the thing about him. He professes anger, strength, and an elegance to it, all wrapped in once. As far as the character itself, I think this is why most people who watch Babylon 5 consider like Jakar one of their favorite characters.
Yeah.
Jason, what's your reaction?
Well, I think on the one hand, it does give us a chance for him to chew the scenery a little bit, but I think it's also a little inconsistent because if he's an ambassador, and like Sheridan said, the purpose of the station is for everybody to be able to talk to each other. And if he's throwing a fit over the Emperor of the Centauri coming to the station, then he should be maybe not equally upset, but just as irritated by the fact that any Centauri are there. And we know he's got his issues with Londo, but it feels to me like it feels like Jakar takes a couple of steps back in the character development, because he's already gone past just the blustering, bloviating, typical politician type that we were seeing in the first season, and now it seems like he's reverted to type on this because his he's done his quest, he's done his pilgrimage and all of that, and he's come back saying, I'm enlightened, we've got a new purpose. And at this point, the colony hasn't been attacked. There's no reason for him to be this reactive over the Emperor being there.
I think you're right, Jason. And like I kind of mentioned, it was kind of classic Jakar, and it was portrayed that he was being unreasonable. Like, Sheridan points something out and he's like, kind of like, who cares? It's, it's technicality, I think he says, right?
Yeah.
When Sheridan was in fact pointing out relevant facts. And Madman, I know what you're referring to with, this being kind of a turning point for Jakar, but I think I agree with both of you and Jason that we see kind of both ends of that in Jakar. We have him literally planning to assassinate the guy, which is very original Jakar, right? It's like he'll do these underhanded things, and then we see his turn. So it is a little bit inconsistent throughout, but
see, I could see him planning to assassinate the Emperor after the colony's attacked.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll show you. Yeah. Okay. Londo lied to me. Londo set me up. Everything's a fabrication. And then he reverts back because of course the Centauri can't be trusted. Well, I'm going to show them. But to have that be his reaction at the very beginning of the episode, he doesn't have anywhere to go emotionally in that.
You have to remember the hatred between these two worlds.
I know, but
for hundreds of years.
Yeah, but at the same time, Jakar has moved beyond that hatred in his arc. Past
he has something else he knows there's a bigger threat out there.
Yeah.
And he has to move beyond it because he's a diplomat. It's his job.
Well, and also that's part of it. But the religious thing, his religious pilgrimage, I think, is the biggest thing. And I call it a religious pilgrimage, going out and finding out the shadows are coming back. And now he's looking at all of this in his history in the religious texts of these evil things are coming back. And that's dominated his character since he came back for season 2. And then suddenly we've got this other Jakar again.
Yeah, and
It's
he's
just inconsistent where his development
he's
is.
making what would be a symbolic act of killing the emperor, clearly to say, yeah, I've struck this blow, but it really wouldn't have any particular value and would probably start a war.
Yeah.
So I mean, he had the whole thing like, oh, I'm acting on my own and everything. No, the Centauri obviously wouldn't believe that. I mean, they'd say, oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. It was a little strange, but it.
Well, see, and no, I'm gonna push back on Outpost Nerd. I'm not ignoring all of the years of evils. What I'm also not ignoring is Jakar saying it's time for the animosity to be put behind us. I'm reaching out in the hand of friendship. He actually said these things, that we have a bigger threat, we have a bigger problem. We have to put our little squabbles aside because this big monster thing is coming to kill us all.
Well, and he also, in this episode, he got the message from Franklin that what the emperor told him, was his apology, and that changed Jakar's mind. Yeah, I mean, that alone, so I understand that, they have this long history and everything, but that was the thing that made Jakar reconsider everything. So he wasn't that far away.
Yeah. Well, and if you just rearrange some of the scenes where that apology comes first, and then then the colony happens, then he reverts to type. He's like, oh, well, I knew they couldn't be trusted. This guy killed my dad, and then you have him revert back to all of the hate, all of the animosity. But to start there and then to have the little forgiveness moment, and then the colony gets attacked, it's just in the wrong order, seems to me.
Well, okay, but sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, I think Outpost Nerd and Umbra's making good points in the chat there, but I generally agree with Jason. It seemed a little bit out of type for him all of a sudden. The Babylon 5 is a place everyone's welcome. It's a diplomatic station. I mean, the Emperor's coming. I mean, he's allowed to come. Like, it seems a little bit out of this, just from the diplomatic aspect of it. It seems out of, it seems like a weird ask. Like, he knows, of course, Sinclair's or Sheridan's going to say no.
And in the light of what we know, and Jakar especially knows about the shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
that's a different aspect as well.
Remember,
that makes the whole difference, because if the shadows are not coming, then we get Jakar season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But he's established for himself, to his satisfaction, that this greater threat is on its way.
Yeah, man, what were you going to say?
Yeah, remember, put it to this perspective, and this is the beginning of season 2, when Jakar sent that ship in to Zahadum, and what happened to that ship? That ship was destroyed, and they brushed it off. And he realized, he says, the only people that knew about what was going on is here in the chamber. So he's already got a bit of a mistrust out there, and he's putting A and B together, and he's believing it might be the Centauri at this point. Because who else could it be? Could it be the Volans? Could it be the Earthers? Could it be the Minbari? It could be either way. But he's going to put his perspective of the experience that he's had with the Centauri, that he's going to believe that possibly, they have some sort of situation with what happened with that ship.
I agree with what you said there, but in the way that he acts generally is almost as if the whole shadow knowledge doesn't exist, because all his, like we said, we were talking here, his all his attitude and anger was very much early Jakar, prior to the shadow stuff, and then after the Emperor apologizes, then what you just mentioned with his suspicion about Londo, that goes out the window too, as if it didn't exist, because then he's like, oh, Londo, we could start anew here. I mean, he really made that turn. And again, it seems like the shadow stuff was just not even in his mind.
Well, no, I think it is in his mind. But the thing about it is, it's to the point where, who can I trust? I've already have gone to everyone that I could. This is coming from Jakar, that I could have gone and told them, "Hey, listen, there's something coming dark here. I know it's out there." And it's like the way everyone has been treating it, because we know, from backstories on there, is everybody staying quiet to the point that basically, there is something out there, but they're sort of pushing off Jakar. So what is Jakar left to do? It's going to be to the point where he's thinking, I'm on my own at this point. I'm going to have to deal with it when it happens.
Yeah, but his going to what I'm saying is his going to Londo in this episode seems to disregard if he was actively thinking that Londo is acting against me with this other force somehow. He didn't know for sure it was Londo. He suspected it.
He
But
suspect.
then-
Suspect. You gotta
Okay,
remember.
but then he sets that aside, and then he goes to him with open arms because of what the Emperor did, of course. And it just seems to me that it, is in the back of his mind at that point, at least.
All right. Yeah, sorry, just to go back a little bit. We didn't talk about an A and B plot. I think pretty much it's just one plot, Cam? Unless the B plot is the
Well, it's
the
the Ranger
message from it's so minor that it's not. We have basically one plot. Let's just say,
no. That is not minor at all.
Minor in the episode.
There is nothing minor in this episode.
This is okay. It was a small amount of time, but
Yes,
what happened with the Ranger was a mountain being dropped in a river. This was. Okay. Let me ask you guys. Well, can we talk about that?
All right. Well, let's talk about that then.
Okay. Sinclair reappears, right? Did you guys expect this?
No.
Originally, when I watched this, I was shocked. I was like, "Whoa!"
Jaw dropping, right?
Exactly.
What about you?
I thought, I didn't, because I knew the history of the show and that he was taken off because of medical, personal reasons. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect it, but it makes sense for him to come back and do a little bit of cameos here and there. So I wasn't, I was surprised. Also, because I thought maybe that we wouldn't see him at all. But anyway.
Also, you didn't pick it up, but actually, there wasn't 2 messages; there were 3. But technically, the third one wasn't explained until the novels. Which is basically who would be the third. If you think who would be the third message of all
Ivanova,
probably Ivanova.
No.
Or Kosh,
his wife.
Well, we don't know.
Wife at end of season 1. What's her name? Satori.
Catherine. Yeah. Satai.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well. Well, we don't see her in. Well, we never see her again in the show, right? Right. Well, sorry, I guess I shouldn't have said that. That's a bit of a spoiler, but I guess probably not too much of a surprise. But okay, so now Sinclair reveals, we only see what he actually says to Garibaldi, or the message to Garibaldi. We don't know if it's the same content to Delenn or not. He begins the greeting the same way with a hello, old friend, which kind of implies it might be the same message, but I don't think it is, because I think it was too personal to. I don't mean personal as in a private sense. I just mean addressed to Garibaldi. And he reveals some bombshells here, that the mystery of his reassignment to Mimbar is more than what it seems, which obviously everyone was kind of like, well, what's that all about? Well, now we know that it's beyond Earth Force. So he's involved in some way with the Minbari, and he starts to give us hints about this, which, he's connected to some Minbari and human organization, which ties into the whole thing with the Minbari and human souls. And he, the Rangers is what it is, this group that the Ranger then describes as an army, a small but growing army of mostly humans, but some Minbari. You guys have any other comments on that, or what am I missing?
No, that's basically.
That's basically as far as we know. Is this an introduction to the Rangers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, they know that stuff is going on, and he says that the Rangers' job is to observe and report back, and not through the regular channels. So implying that Earth Force or those channels might be compromised.
Right. Somehow. He's reporting to Sinclair.
Yeah.
and he says they're my eyes and ears. He's telling you that he is the leader here, essentially.
Yeah.
It's almost like a fifth column type of arrangement, but not in a rebellious way this time around. It's okay. I can think of a better example. The Rangers and stuff. Since we're talking about souls, Minbari souls and humans and that sort of thing, there's almost a religious aspect to it. Not really so much from the standpoint of these are people of faith. But if you look at the Catholic Church, for example, it is probably one of the most spread out intelligence organizations on the planet, right? Because how many places you got a priest in every city. A lot of the higher ups are dialed into local politics. This is the same kind of thing. I think you have your Rangers are the emissaries. They're the missionaries that go out and, eyes and ears, but they're also, giving information as well as collecting information. And I think as we go into this season, I'm making a prediction here. I think the Rangers are going to factor in a lot more during I'm assuming there's a war that's coming, but I think the Rangers are going to play an interesting part in a lot of this to come. And I say that without knowing anything about what's to come. So.
Sure. And now he also reveals that they've had agents on Babylon 5, that there are several of them that have been in it. And they mentioned that this guy has been back, and it's like, third, I think when he checks in or whatever, the security guy's like, third time this month or something. So, this guy's been coming and going here. And I think he said there were some others. I'm not 100% on that, but I think he did.
I think so.
Don't the Rangers also said something about that part of their job? I mean, it doesn't seem like the major part, but was to develop some sort of understanding between the Minbari and humans as well. That's sort of like another thing they're trying to do.
Madman, do you remember what Sinclair said about that? Did he mention that?
I thought it was the guy mentioning it to
I'm trying to remember because I didn't watch the episode today. I watched it last night.
Oh, okay. Well, they definitely did talk about humans and Minbari working together in the Rangers.
They did.
So yeah. They also said that they were out on the frontier. That was primarily their assignment, is they were out there in the wilderness, essentially. This being one of the many, I don't want to say lifts, but inspirations from Tolkien, for example. The Rangers are paralleling Rangers from, Lord of the Rings, essentially. They're these guys that are out there alone, often by themselves, collecting information, being eyes and ears, protecting people, things like that. So where there's, they're like Jason said, they're a mysterious organization. I'd say if you were going to make a religious thing, you might, with Catholicism, you could say they're more like the Jesuits, perhaps, that they're kind of their own order within a larger system, like, the larger Minbari, for example. But so there's all that. I don't know if there's anything. I mean, it is just a smidgen of things. It is very important, obviously. Again, Sinclair's return and everything. This is a big outpost. Yeah, the Rangers are beyond are not part of the caste system, right? So anything else anybody's got to say about that right now?
No, I think it's pretty. Pretty. Setting up. It's obviously setting something up for the future, and this is the last episode that before we just started the show, I started watching episodes. I got up to this is the last episode I got up to before I said, "Oh wait, you know what? I'm gonna try to go in Virgin." So I'm Virgin after this. So yeah, I don't know what happens. It's I expect we'll see lots more of them.
Well,
sure.
One thing I want to bring up. What was the name of the emperor?
Turhan.
Okay. Do you know who the actor playing Turhan is?
No.
No, I do not.
The actor's name is Turan Bay. J. Michael Vincent was J. Michael Straczynski, excuse me, was so impressed with his performance. Because the original naming was just there was going to be the Emperor Centauri. That was about it in the original script. He was so impressed with his performance that he just used his name, his actual name, in the episode.
Cool.
Well, did you?
But the thing about it is, this won't be the last time we will see this actor in this show. He will reappear again in another great episode.
So, well, let's go back to the beginning if we can for a minute. Is we see Centauri Prime? I don't know that we've seen it before, have we?
We have not.
Okay, so you get a shot, a CGI kind of shot of the Imperial Palace and everything on Centauri Prime, and you get to see, as you mentioned, the Prime Minister was there, who he kind of tries to get the Emperor to not go on this mission, citing his health, and he's like, it's basically like die is cast on that. And
by
then
the way, the Prime Minister, for those of you who will recognize the name, the Prime Minister is played by Malachi Throne, who is Commodore Mendez over on Star Trek in the Menagerie, the only 2-part episode where they go back to Talos 4 with Pike.
Mhm.
That's Malachi Throne, and he also was the original voice of the Keeper in The Cage, the original pilot. But they had to flip it because he's now in the episode, so they had to redub the voice of the boss Brainiac. He was the original voice of that character when The Cage was first produced.
Yeah, he went from having balls and no having balls at all. That voice went a little high.
Yeah.
All right.
A little bit of trivia.
But he's
Sorry,
also
did you
known as
have something,
Malachi
Ken, next?
in the episode too.
Sorry, what was that?
They also used right there. Paul brings that up. Malachi. It was used Prime Minister Malachi.
I think it's just Straczynski being lazy at this point. Then. Okay,
Cam,
so
did you want to go on to something else?
well, I was just going to note some other things that we saw about the Centauri. The 4 telepath women that are with him, that they explain
His
that
wives?
they're basically raised as together as from childhood, and they have this telepathic link that crosses the universe, where they can communicate and see what the others see. So 2 of them come with the Emperor, and 2 of them stay back on Centauri Prime. So now the real meat of this, we talked about Jakar and his plan to kill him and such, and then where he kind of turns around based on the Emperor's statement. But then we see the plot with Londo and Lord Rifa, where there's some interesting bits in here, and I'll just kind of hit them and then let you guys discuss. Where Rifa's plan is basically to have Londo give a speech that has been, he mentions, and I think this is interesting, it's been like tested and designed to evoke certain reactions, meaning the language, the exact words and things they're using in it. And it's basically like Snob, you said in your synopsis, it was meant to kind of go against the Emperor and also seed predictions, in quotes, for events that they will then make happen to undermine the Emperor's rule. That's kind of their plan. They're going to get rid of him one way or another. Because they're
powerful but elegant.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Powerful but elegant, strong.
Right, and it's interesting that Londo's the face of that movement, and so he goes along with it. And I'm trying to remember. I think at what point did he decide to contact Morden? Because it wasn't right when. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's when he things start to fall apart, right? So he doesn't get the emperor falls sick and collapses, has his heart attack, and then he's told by Rifa that things are starting to fall apart. People back on Centauri Prime are they're getting themselves set up to take over, and they're positioning
Rival
themselves.
faction.
Yeah, and Londo's like, that's when they're like, oh, we got to do something. We can't, these guys are gonna take over stuff, and we're not gonna, I'm missing, he's trying to get his piece in position, but they haven't been able to get their piece set up. So that's when they have to take, extreme actions, and that's when Londo decides to use Morton to do this. And
Well, yeah, and what they're doing is to attack this Narn outpost that is used as a listening post into Centauri Prime, a pretty fortified position on the border, essentially.
yeah, they mentioned it's an outpost, so I thought it was very small. But then later on, it's a colony, and it's got 250,000 Narn on it, so it's not some tiny little.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the official narrative is that it's a colony, but the Centauri suspected of being a listening post, actual military purpose.
Yeah.
Facility too. So.
Yeah, they have. So there is. You see in the attack that obviously there's a space station there that is a strong military presence with the fighters and everything. But then you also see them firing on the planet, which is presumably the colony. Where the population is.
Yeah.
And well, lo and behold, Morden's friends show up and destroy them without a problem, right? I mean, they just absolutely obliterate them
without getting a scratch,
right?
And you notice how they kept continuing, even though the most of the base was destroyed in the colony, they just kept pouring it on, make sure there was like nothing left, no survivors.
Well, but then we later find out there are survivors, though, and maybe on the station, but because later on, and that's what I thought too. But later on, they're talking about. Okay, so they get obliterated and they leave, and then Rifa, I think, had arranged for Centauri ships to show up there, which they do, and then when Narn reinforcements come, they just find the Centauri there, and they're everything destroyed. So they reasonably say, well, the Centauri did this, but basically the Centauri take control of the place, because then later on we see a scene where they're talking about the survivors, and basically they're going to be put in slave work camps.
Yeah, those are the ones that basically didn't know what was going on. You have to put to that perspective that they lived outside. Probably they lived outside the dome itself, the main dome.
Yeah, somewhere else on the planet you're talking about.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. It might be a fairly large settlement,
large colony. They just
yeah.
If you look into the way the shadows were hitting the base, it just like anything that was constructed or anything to that nature, they just literally just left it in just ashes.
Yeah, and well, should we? I'm sorry, Jason or Snob, you got anything about that stuff?
Well, I'm wondering if there are survivors, if any of them would have any kind of visual recognition of the shadow ships, or if there's any visual record that survived. Because if people saw it, if people saw these ships, that would pretty much blow a hole through half of the theories that the Centauri did it. Well, what are these ships?
Yeah,
who do these ships belong to? That's not a Centauri vessel.
I get the impression that was not the case, because the Narn, through Jakar gets the news that it was a Centauri, so there was no mention. I think they destroyed them utterly, in space, and from the planet they probably couldn't tell who was attacking them. And you notice they do kind of cloak as well, the shadow ships.
Well, also remember the pilots that were fighting the shadows. It was like, what are they? And they were all wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
Then the next fleet comes in, and what do they pick up on their radar? Centauri warships.
Yeah.
So they put A and B together, and they're like, oh, it's the Centauri again. They're coming after us. So it was like, no, it was not let's check out and find out what really happened. It was, oh yeah, it was the Centauri that did it to us.
And that's the
Now,
Centauri wanted that, or Rifa, I should say, wanted that, because they wanted to basically launch into this campaign. Um, and then we see, the reason I know that is because, or we know that is because he goes to the Emperor and tries to get him. He's like, "Oh, Emperor, we've made this great strike against our enemies," and trying to get him to do a PR thing, where he would rubber stamp it or whatever, I guess, or they could, cajole, fake something from him, maybe.
now I had a little bit of a different, like, I assumed that the reason of course, Londo doesn't want to return the Narn back to Narn space is because they will be able to say, hey, this was not we didn't get hit by the Centauri first. There was these other ships, even if, I assumed that basically most of the military was destroyed, everything in space, and the only thing is, generally some colonists on the ground, but a
No,
lot of them.
no, I
And
think I think that's contradicted in the show, because when we see them at the council, Sheridan's threatening that they're going to send Earth Force ships there and find out what happened, and Londo then capitulates to keep him away from there. So, but part of that deal is that they are handing over the hostages. So
yeah, and I kind of
Londo's
made
not
these
concerned about that.
Well, no,
Yeah,
but
I
remember,
think he was concerned, but this is I made these assumptions. It seemed to me that he's sort of given up on the fact that some information is going to get out. If you're sitting on, you might be sitting on, on the planet, and you look up and there's this, big purple beam, and it's, destroying stuff on the ground, and you can easily say, maybe you didn't see anything, but you're like, well, that purple beam, that's not something that the Centauri have, right? Like, you could say, the military could figure out this is, that wasn't Centauri, or they have a new weapon or something like that.
Well,
So
but the same,
I assumed there's a couple things I assumed, just because the forces met each other at the beginning, they're not there to figure things out, but cooler heads in the military are in both militaries are going to get together afterwards and go, okay, well, yeah, we saw these guys here, we fought, maybe it's them, but let's look into it. Let's talk to people and find out a little bit more. So I kind of assumed Londo had sort of given up on that, and he had sort of made the decision, well, better that, a couple of, civilians who probably don't know too much, come and say, oh, we saw weird stuff. Better that happens than than getting Earth and the humans actually involved and their military involved. Like, he's cutting his losses and saying, I'm willing to give this up to keep the Earth guys out. That was my assumption. I admit it's not in there.
That may be true. I agree. He definitely Londo definitely made that decision that one was better than the other, right?
Yeah.
He didn't want Earth Force there. That's for sure.
Well, so I'm assuming it's going to come out that, at least not necessarily that, oh, these shadows, but it's going to come out that there were some weird ships around that attacked this colony. We don't know what they are. They don't seem to be Centauri. I'm assuming that's going to come out in later episodes. I don't know anything for sure, but
can we talk about the elephant in the room at this point? Because that's important what you just said. Because right before that little situation, where he had on there, actually right before the attack on the base, Londo was asleep and had a nightmare.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Sure.
I wanted to talk about Londo's visions.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because you have Londo, who basically he's all the way from the beginning of the series. He's always said, "Oh, I've always seen this future for me that I would be at somebody's throat," and then then he starts to mention Jakar, and then he has all this soothsayers that have been saying that there's something dark coming to the point, and now we're getting these dreams that you're looking at. Londo's looking up at the sky, and it looks like that. I think it's just Centauri Prime, that there's shadow ships flying overhead, and basically, and then there's portions where he's been crowned emperor, and that basically, there's a point where he's very old, and there's Jakar there about to murder him, or beginning to murder him onto that, and then he awakens out of that dream.
Yeah, Londo had explained to us in one of the early episodes that the Centauri have this thing where they see their own death, and he mentioned that he knew that there was some Narn that was killing him, or they were killing each other. And then when because he said the first time he saw Jakar, he's like, that's the guy that he knew that. And so now we finally get to actually see that visualized.
And I forgot to put in the hand.
Yeah,
there
was
to Michael
there was another
Anasari, who said in that other episode where he said, "I see a hand reaching out into the stars."
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that line, they said,
yep. And so in Jakar, in this vision, is he has like an eye patch over one of his eyes.
Missing an eye, yeah.
Right.
It's like it's like a hole. Got
right.
an eye plucked out or something.
And then it shows them literally, strangling each other. So we'll see where that goes. But so
I figured there's a lot in that vision. They've got, you've got Londo. He becomes the emperor. He gets the crown on his head. I assume that's what he's doing. And then we see him, and he's a lot older. So he's the emperor. He's in his throne room or something. So he's a long time he's an emperor, the emperor in that. But contrast that with the end of the episode where he says that he doesn't want to be the emperor. He prefers to work in the background.
Right.
So I thought that was a little bit unusual, because it seemed like he wanted to be the emperor earlier, or was interested in that kind of power. Well, and then we see a vision of him doing that, and then later he says, no, I'd rather be in the back.
Okay, well, there's some important stuff. You're right. There's some important stuff with Londo. Number one, well, that's a scene that he had with Veer. But Veer had another scene. Veer's aware of what had kind of gone on between him and Rifa. He's he's not part of it, but he's observing all of it. And he, Veer stands up to Londo and says, don't. He literally says, "Don't do this," and Londo basically says, I'm doing it, and Veer, obeys, but he's made his objection very clear, because he knows what's going to happen. This is going to start a war.
And at that point, he's committed to the bit. It's not like he can back out, because he knows he's on the hook for Morden's friends are going to come after him for, whatever pound of flesh they're going to want from him. So he knows he's already.
Yeah. Well, he's already seen the consequences of it too, right? Where, the ship that went to Zahadum, he already knows that he's betrayed them. The Narn, when, Jakar was sending that, to find out what was going on there. Then, there was something else that occurred to me with this is, Londo, he kind of tells Rifa he's going to do it, but Rifa doesn't know exactly what he's doing still and doesn't seem to care. There was, for me, I'm watching this and I'm seeing Londo, and it's like, oh yeah, he's he sees what he can do and is doing it, but it's like, to me, it seemed like there was some self-awareness that it's like, this is not right, but I'm doing it anyway, kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. Like you were saying, Jason, he's kind of, he's now trapped in his choices.
Okay. Well, just on that, if you notice near the very beginning of the episode, Rifa comes in and he gives Londo his speech and stuff, and then he leaves. And then Londo turns to Veer and he says something about, you look like you're uncomfortable with this. Mm-hmm. And he says this, with this conversation that we just had. And for once, I agree with you. So that implies, at the beginning of the episode, they're implying that he's not, happy with this political, political assassination, not physical assassination, but, what they're going to do to the emperor. But yet he's more than happy to start a war in order to, keep things a little bit so that, someone else their little cabal gets to, the most power instead of some other.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure he's comfortable with it even at that point. But he doesn't hesitate, he's committed to it. Well, that's right. Yeah. And we're seeing what kind of person Londo is, right? This and Madman mentioned that Jakar has an important turn in this. Londo, we've already seen we've seen the beginning of it with both of them, and this is a pivotal episode for both of them. as their their dies are being cast here.
Right. Do you want to talk about Jakar's change of heart? I felt bad for him.
Yeah, it's yeah. Go ahead.
No, I'm happy to go ahead. I'm happy to get.
Well, okay. So basically, he is moved by the emperor's apology. Even though it was just to him through Franklin, he would, he says he's like, I never expected this, and he went from being I'm gonna murder him, because I mean he was even like prop him up, I'll still kill him,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
He's upset. Yeah, he's like, I didn't get a chance to kill him, even if he's gonna die, right? He's
right.
Like, I'm pissed I'm pissed the guy's gonna die before I get a chance to kill him.
I had the knife in my hand.
Yeah, he was very upset.
By that time, are we ready for a weekend at Turhan's?
So he does. He has a change of heart. He goes to find Londo, and Londo, in the meantime, has ordered this attack, and the news hasn't come through yet. And he thinks that Jakar's going to attack him, but instead Jakar's like, "Let me buy you a drink," and he, with insults thrown in, he's like, "There's hope for us." Jakar, which, again, previously he had said, there's no way this ends except for in blood. And now he's completely seen something new as a possibility, which lasts for about 5 minutes. Right.
That must have been the most uncomfortable drink Londo has ever had with anybody.
Yeah. I mean, you could see it too.
Over him.
Well, remember
he's
back
patting him on the back saying, "Oh, we're going to be good friends now." He's like, "Oh, wait till you find out what I did."
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, this happened back a bit too. Remember that he had a drink with Jakar back before, and that didn't turn out well either afterwards at the end.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, Londo, if you watch his performance,
no drink.
there, yeah, if you watch Peter Jurassic's performance, it's like he's going through these different levels of things where he's plotting and doing this stuff, and then it's like he's got genuine regret there. I think that's what I'm seeing. It's like, it's like the weight of what he's done. He understands it. He's not just like, F it. We're just going to do whatever. I mean, he is doing the actions, but his conscience is not gone.
I would say, though, I think you said he feels the weight of what he does. I would agree with that, but I don't know that he has genuine regret. Maybe some regret. I don't know that we see that. Maybe he's regretful, but
Londo is a complex character, so and I think we're seeing it. Well, I feel we're seeing it on display. You guys, I don't know, maybe you're not.
Well, no, he's a complex character. I'm just sort of going, the weight of it, yes, but regret for it. We've seen some regret in the past, but I mean, the way he jumps on this and he's like, yeah, let's do it. He's quickly, well, we gotta, Rifa tells him, oh, that things are in flux, and other people are starting to make their moves. We were supposed to make our move first,
But
and he's like, oh yeah, off to Morden. Let's kill another couple 100,000 people.
But let's think back to when he ordered, when he had Morden make his first attack, which he kind of did flippantly, back in season 1, and then he kind of was like, well, why don't we just wipe out the Northern homeworld? And Morden's like, in time, and Londo's like, what? It's like, I mean, he was willing to say it, but then when it's like a reality, it's like,
remember also what Morden said too. And Londo asked him, he says, well, what if I need another one of these demonstrations? And Morden goes, well, just pick a target.
Right. Yeah. And that's exactly what he did in this episode.
I made the assumption that Shadows probably want to wipe out everybody, so that when he says all in good time, he just means all of you lesser races are going to get all wiped out or something like that. But anyway.
Well, and so you mentioned about the lesser races. Isn't I'm trying to remember exactly what was it near the end of the episode. They were talking about I think it was Ivanova and Sheridan and Garibaldi were talking about that. They're like, they're theorizing about this. It's like there's some unknown actor, I mean, they're some unknown race that's in play here.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to remember if that was a result of Sinclair's message or something else that they
That
had.
was the conversation Garibaldi was having, talking about what Sinclair gave him, but not all the information.
Okay.
You know, that line where he's like, "Well, I
Oh,
can't
that's
tell
right.
you
That's right.
everything. I can't tell you everything, but then you couldn't trust me if I did."
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, so
Well,
they're starting to put some pieces together as well.
and not just the trust factor, but the way he says it. He's like, if I tell you what I know because you've ordered me to, then who's to say that I wouldn't be able to tell somebody else something because somebody higher up than you orders me to?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and reestablishes that, and kind of puts a different spin on just telling him, no, I can't tell you. It's like, well, if I break, it's like, once a cheater, always a cheater type of thing, right?
Right.
You get somebody who has this habit, who breaks this rule, then it's easier to break that rule the next time, and then it's easier the next time. So we're establishing both. Sheridan has to trust Garibaldi, but also Garibaldi is establishing that he's a man of principle. He's going to stand on that principle. It doesn't matter who it is that's trying to get him to say what he is. And it's a really nice character moment that's just kind of buried in there, but it adds a dimension to the relationship Sheridan and Garibaldi are building.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of trust, and that's probably going to be a thing later.
Yeah, I thought I agree with Jason. I thought that was it's good for them to do that, because in the first season we had a lot. I mean, Sinclair and Garibaldi come with already a bit of a built relationship, and they build on it in the first season. But when Sinclair leaves, they lose that, so they need to work on developing that between Garibaldi and Sheridan. So I thought that was pretty important to do that. It's good to see something like that.
There is another element that we I don't think we touched on, was that the Emperor said that he wished to, he'd never seen a Vorlon, and he knew Kosh was there and wanted to see him. And they don't have an audience, but as he's dying, Kosh does show up in MedLab, and he asks, I'm trying to.
He gets more than one word.
Right, yeah. And see, what is it? I'm sorry, what does the Emperor say? He says,
How will it?
And
yeah, Kosh says, with fire.
Yeah, it ends with fire.
And so that was kind of a interesting moment. But also one thing also in Sinclair's message, he said specifically, he said, stay close to the Vorlons and beware of shadows. So Sinclair knows something specific, it seems, referencing the Vorlons and the shadows there.
Yeah.
And also what the Emperor said.
We've gotten hints.
What the Emperor said to Londo right before his death.
Yeah, right. Rifa comes and tries to squeeze a message out of him, and then the Emperor doesn't say anything. Right, he brushed him off, and then Londo kind of leans in, and then what did he say?
He doesn't. He indicates to Londo to lean in.
Yeah,
he wants to talk to Londo.
Yeah, and Rifa says I'm sorry. Well, Londo says what the Emperor said, which was. I'm sorry, I don't know if I have it written down.
No, the way he said it was at first. What did the Emperor say? He says, "Continue, take my people back to the stars." And then they walk out. They walk out of MedLab. Says, "What did the Emperor really say?" He says, "We're all damned."
Mm-hmm. And Rifa says, "Small price to pay for immortality."
Exactly.
So again, that's a
snug look on Rifa's face. He's like, good payment to just to be to run a world,
right.
Well, and that also goes to show you that Rifa is using Londo, and I mean, Londo's using Morden and the shadows in order to get who he wants. I think he doesn't quite realize how deep he's getting and what kind of trouble it's going to cause. But Rifa's also manipulating and thinking he's got Londo under his thumb. And I think that's going to bite him.
Well, and there's a contrast there, right? Rifa has no, if we're talking about Londo's reactions and whether he's conflicted or anything, Rifa has no conflict in this. He is very comfortable with what he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember later on in the conversation, which I love the part on there where he's trying to hand Veer the chalice.
Mm-hmm.
Veer wouldn't take it. He's like, "Okay, you're not going to take it. I'll put it over here." That he says, "Oh, I've taken out all the opposition. There's no one left that could go against us. I've taken out all the families and everyone that would go. It is the Emperor's nephew who has similar thoughts like us that will be on the seat of the Centauri Prime."
Right. And Snob, I think you mentioned it, but the details of it is, we saw the Prime Minister on Centauri Prime when the Emperor collapsed, and with where the two of the telepaths were there, and they basically conveyed the news about that. And interestingly, there was a human and Minbari, presumably ambassadors, in the throne room, talking to the Prime Minister. And then
one of the things that struck me as odd is, and probably because they're just extras, they're not paid to say anything, but the wives never said anything. And at the end, when they're in sickbay or med lab infirmary, and Londo says what the Emperor told him, makes the claim, they look at each other, but they don't call him out. They said, that's not what he said. They don't correct the record. They look at each other and they leave.
Yeah, well, it is a little strange. You'd be like, well, why wouldn't they say something? They know more. I mean, they are telepaths after all.
Yeah,
they would know. They may have foresaw it already.
Well, they probably also know how Centauri works, right? It's like this is the kind of thing that goes on. This kind of
shenanigans,
skullduggery. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the Centauri seems like a fairly patriarchal society, right? The men do whatever, and the women just sit back and
and their power probably is
keep their mouth shut. So maybe
their whole purpose for being there is telepathic communication to facilitate the Emperor doing what it is the Emperor wants to do to accomplish his goals. And if he's dying and he says, "We're all damned," and Londo says, "Oh, hey, we're going to keep going, take my people to the stars," that runs counter to the goal that the Emperor had. So you would think that they'd have a vested interest in sitting there saying, "Hey, no, hold on. That's not what he said. We're not supposed to be going to war."
Well, by that time, the Prime Minister has been assassinated. And we don't
say the Prime Minister.
We don't know what happened to the other two of them on Centauri Prime.
But they must have. They assume they passed on the fact that the Prime Minister. Well, we don't. I shouldn't say that.
And we see the Prime Minister being assassinated. He calls for the guards and everything, and they're not there. And it's a bunch of civilians. I mean, they weren't guards that assassinated him. They were people wearing courtiers or whatever. And they stab him to death. Didn't they stab him? I remember that right?
They stabbed him.
Yeah.
So they they slaughter him, and Rifa did that. Rifa's like, "Yeah, I'm going to take care of that." He kind of walks out at some. I forget exactly when that happened. Maybe it was it when Londo was ordering the attack?
No,
I'm sorry, what?
No, Rifa's responsible. Afterwards, he says, I think it's during that portion. He says, "Yeah, there's some problems on Centauri Prime, but I'll take care of them. I'll take care of this one."
Right. So
Rifa obviously, orders them.
Yeah. So they took their like you said, their plan had got a monkey wrench thrown into it because the Emperor collapsing, and then they saw their opportunity. Londo launched his plan, Rifa launched his plan, and they succeeded. They've committed their coup essentially.
And I'm assuming that the prime minister was probably the next biggest center of power in this entire.
Well,
At the
yeah,
very
they
least,
were
he'd
trusted
stand in the
him,
way of succession.
so they
right.
got to get
Yeah.
rid of him.
Yeah, until an emperor was crowned, he would probably be the effect, essentially the emperor. And the emperor mentioned that, didn't he, at the beginning, something about his intention to have him.
Well, it's why he said, "You can't go with me. I need you here."
Yeah.
Well, does he say that he's going to make him the next emperor, or he just says you're I thought he just said you're a trusted aide.
No, that is something
No,
happened.
for long.
Yeah, he's basically putting him in charge while he's gone.
Yeah. But not to be the next emperor when he dies.
No,
Right? I didn't get that.
I didn't get that either.
Yeah. So, okay. So, obviously huge monumental changes in these things. And we mentioned, or, we were referring to it earlier where they have this council meeting. Oh, well, okay. We skipped the part where Jakar was raging and going to go kill Londo, after all this came to pass. And he's literally running through the halls and attacking security guys and everything. And then Sheridan has a group of them, basically standing there armed to stop him. And Sheridan kind of talks Jakar down, saying, "We can't help you if you do this. You're gonna cross this line, and we won't be able to change that." And Jakar relents. But Jakar says some very important things in here. He's like, Jakar says they're doing it again. Meaning the Centauri they're back on the path to their atrocities. And he's, he won't stop it, but it's, he doesn't know what else to do, kind of thing. But then he does stop it, which again, Madman, you mentioned, Jakar's growth is actually very significant, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
I left you silent.
Nothing.
I guess I dumbfounded.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't know if I had to jump in there. Yeah, no, that it is part of his growth. It's like I said, with Jakar, not to give much that's coming forward. It is foreshadowing a little bit of his growth at this point in this episode, but there's a lot more to come from this. But we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen next, as
Right.
far as between Jakar and Londo, as far as this.
Right. But we do then go to the council scene, where we see Delenn is there, and Sheridan and Londo, and Londo's talking. I don't think Kosh was there, because that might have been. I don't think Kosh was there.
I don't think so.
But basically, this is where they're discussing the whole thing about the the survivors and them holding on to them and such. Where they Sheridan makes a move and pressures Londo to give it up, but Jakar comes in and takes his place. And Delenn's kind of looking at him like, oh,
That look and the movement toward his chair
Mhm.
as he sits down, as he puts himself down.
Yeah, and Delenn does kind of raise an objection. Basically, she kind of calls Londo out. It's like, oh, they'll be our guests or whatever he said, and she's like, forced laborers, and
Re-education.
yeah. And Londo, is like, no, we're not gonna, we're not going to let them go. But he's actually fairly mild in this interaction. Londo's not particularly boisterous.
Seems resigned.
Yeah. And he's like, no, my government doesn't agree to that. And then Sheridan threatens him. Then he's like, I think I can convince my government to, but then at the end, Jakar drops the bombshell that they've declared war against the Centauri. So this is moved beyond a few border skirmishes into an all-out state of war.
Yep. I was going to ask, do I want to comment on? I was a little like, I'm always, whenever we see, I'm not sure what Straczynski's trying to get. Whenever we see Jakar, like, he's very emotional, and he seems to me to be overly emotional about things. Like, he wants to kill. I mean, you see why he wants to kill Londo, but as an ambassador in a political type. He should be understanding about those things, and you would think he'd want to do it in a a more not diplomatic, but a more sneaky way, is not so direct. And then by being an ambassador, you'd think him to think that way. So I'm always a little bit, he gets very emotional about these things in this episode. When he's fighting with Sheridan, it seems like out of place for what an ambassador would do. So I'm wondering if Straczynski is just trying to show us that the Narn are are they more emotional, because it seems out of character for what a diplomat might do, but yet we haven't seen the Toth in a while, but when we seen the Toth in the first season, she seems to be fairly tightly controlled. So is he trying to tell us that the Narn are just overly emotional? Is it just Jakar?
Well, you got to remember. You have to remember about the Narn. The first thing out is that they were agrarian farmers. They were not, high tech or anything to that nature. They grew things. They had a beautiful planet at one point, till the Centauri came, and basically, for the decades that they held that planet, it just basically it changed them. They were agrarian farmers, and they were very religious on top of that, and it just changed them and made them a bit more aggressive, to the point,
Right.
as their new generations were being born, and basically, they're being taught them, the Centauri is your enemy. They should be taken down. And to this point, you're angering and continuing to anger those, um, that your children's and your children's children, to teach them to fight against the Centauri and nothing else. Because remember, at this point, what's the several things they don't have? They don't have their agrarian culture anymore. They used to have telepaths at one point. We still don't know why they don't have that anymore. Uh, their their religion is still intact somewhat, but split in several different castes to that point. And as far as how can I put this? Their negotiating situation is, they negotiate like farmers, but they take caution, extra caution, against those they're dealing business with.
Yeah, those are good points, but I'm just not.
And one more thing, and I forgot about it. Remember, they were one of the worlds that supplied Earth with weapons during the Minbari War.
Right. It just seems that Jakar. Every time I see him, he seems not to be the most undiplomatic diplomat that I've. He gets very emotional about stuff you'd think a typical diplomat would say, "Oh, Londo betrayed us." Well, you know what? I'm going to just take it. I'm going to get him back, and I'll get him back twice, but I will do it in a sneaky diplomatic way. But I'm just, I guess they're trying to say, the Narn, in that sense, they're less. I mean, that's what a Centauri would do, right? Like a Centauri would obviously, Londo would never, physically assault anybody, but would he ruin your life and have your family and dog killed and all that stuff? Yeah, but he wouldn't do it directly. He'd take your money, steal, he'd do all that kind of stuff, and then after he's done, he would look you in the eye and say, look what I did." That seems kind of more of a what I would expect from a diplomat. So I'm just curious to those of you guys who've seen more of the show, seeing it that way. I mean, I'm happy with each race should be somewhat different, but Jakar,
Well, there's more.
Destroys his own. He destroys. I mean, he's pretty strong. He destroys tables. He wrecks his quarters, and even
he's laying out security guards.
Yeah, he's beating the crap out of everybody. I mean,
well, remember back, was it Deathwalker? How the Toth was beating the crap out of her. Just her by herself. The Narn
are obviously very strong. I mean, they're a little, than the average.
Well, like I said, they're agrarian farmers. So basically, they tend the land. So they've kept themselves in shape to this point. See, there's a lot more I can add to this, but unfortunately, it would give a lot more away from this of the episode to be coming.
Yeah, we don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, as far as the Jakar character itself, I'm just keeping us up to the point where we know from the original movie to season one and part of season two.
I think Paul's got a good point, and this is I did remember this and think about this. Yeah, he got the position because of a key player in the Narn resistance against Atari. Maybe he's not the best choice for diplomat. Yeah, maybe. That is a good point. Yeah. Just a little bit. We're also streaming to Rumble. We're kind of testing it out here. If anybody's on Rumble, I don't know if you put something in the chat on Rumble, if it comes here into this one. I'm hoping so. I haven't seen one, but if you're on Rumble and you're chatting and I'm not seeing it, I'm not purposefully ignoring you. Anyway, yeah, it says we've got one on Rumble and then everybody else on YouTube. But anyway, sorry, don't want to derail the conversation there. Is there any other? Do we hit that one enough? Is there anything else anybody wants to mention? All right, this is a kind of a minor, a little smaller point. What do you think about Sheridan's talking about? He's basically he says, we suggest we should, he wants to make Londo think they know more than they do. What do you think about that little sneaky bit of sneakery? What does it say about Sheridan? And
Well, it says that Sheridan's willing to do what he needs to do.
You have to remember one thing is that like Jakar's up against the wall at this point with as far as the Centauri, and Sheridan at this point knows that kind of a situation after they've been through the Minbari War, and basically that Jakar had given, like I said before, they gave arms to help them along the war. And I think Sheridan's coming back to the favor to the point. It's like, listen, you need help. You were there for us. Basically, let me see what I can do with whatever resources I have at this point.
yeah, but I'm kind of specifically talking about, he's suggesting that, I'm going to make Londo think we know more than we do, which he seems to, the way that he talks about sending the Earth advisors in there. He says, yeah, and I know we're going to find something, right? Like,
Well,
as if
you think Earth don't agree to that?
I don't know, maybe
exactly,
not,
exactly.
but
That's basically to that
I
point.
think, yeah, I was more wondering what everyone thought about the fact that Sheridan is now trying his own little manipulation on Londo in this sense. Make him think that we know something we don't, and maybe he'll reveal something or whatever.
What's that old science fiction thing when they do in science fiction? Sir, we received from Earth the message. Well, we didn't receive it, but we did. No, I never received it. You didn't give it to me. You received it, but I didn't give it to that point. Meaning that basically, yeah, Sheridan may have or may have not talked to Earth. Basically, Earth would have said at this point, stay out of it. And I think that's what would be. And we've seen this in previous episodes when dealing with other races, as far as when they're having large situations like this. And
Yeah,
just saying that he's that yeah, we're going to send people there. He's calling out Londo at this point, saying like, yeah, we're going to send people there, and Londo's going like, okay, no, we can't have this.
yeah. I mean, I'm not denying any of that. I was mainly focusing more on the fact that what it says about Sheridan's character and what he's up to. Is he maturing, changing? He's becoming a little.
Yeah.
He's not the sort of like, I'm the diplomat and I'm running the show.
He's also not the heavy.
Yeah, but he's willing to try this. All right. I think Eclay is making a good point. Sheridan is more clever than Londo with this little, and it seems to sort of trick. I mean, Londo doesn't seem to get it, right? Yeah. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, the Rumble chat does show up. All right, so it does work. All right, I'm learning some every day. All right, sorry. I think I'm just looking at my notes. I think that's about everything that was came up in the episode that I wanted to talk about, or I thought that was interesting. I, only one other thing I see here is that I thought it was interesting that the Emperor's talking to I think it's Sheridan, and he says that no Centauri over the years have ever returned. Like, we've sent them to the Vorlon worlds to try to find out anything about them, and they've never returned. So I thought that's kind of interesting. You'd think in all those years they would have got something, but I guess not.
Well, the Volons, they keep to themselves, and they just literally, we don't know who they are, what they are, where they came from, and I think they just want to keep it that way.
Well, we don't know their purpose either.
Exactly.
The fact that the fact that Kosh is there on the station but doesn't interact with anybody, and his attendance at council meetings are hit and miss. Like, okay, you're clearly following an agenda we don't know about. Where is this going to go? And more than you're telling as far as what you've seen. He sits there and says this is going to end in fire. Well, what does he know? And how does he know it?
Yeah, I still don't really have, like I said, I'm basically at the end. I'm virgin after this. I still don't really have a handle on what the Vorlons are, what their deal is, other than I think that maybe they're related to the Shadow. They're maybe the opposite of them, light versus dark, or they're like the Vulcans and the Romulans. They're split off from each other, diametrically opposed, that kind of thing. So maybe the Vorlons are supposed to protect the galaxy to some extent from the Shadow, or something like that. But I don't really know. I'm just speculating based on other science fiction properties or other tropes that we've seen in sci-fi, as opposed to on any knowledge. But I'm interested to find out what the deal is with them.
And there are a couple of episodes coming up, like very, very soon, actually. A couple, and just I think the next one in 2 episodes.
Only 70 more episodes till we find out the final ending. All right. Any last points that we'll sum up soon? Any last points anybody wants to bring up? And if not, we'll go to our next our final thoughts on the episode. Nobody?
Go for it.
All right. Final thoughts on the episode. Madman, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I give it a 9.5 out of 10. It'd have to be a really good episode. It's giving to the beginning of this Shadow situation. It is just the precursor to what is to come in season 2 and going into season 3 for this show. And I'll tell you, in this episode, you had some standouts. The Emperor, the Churlon Ray, who played the Emperor, played it excellent. Excellent. Now, I've seen the other episode that he's in, and he does a great job in another role in this series on there. So he is a very good actor onto there. His character is very driven. I think that's why JMS liked him in this role. Overall, the Londo Jakar situation, that's building to a point which, that we know that is coming. Now we're getting more nightmares that are coming, forewarnings of things to come, to that point. Like I said, Londo saw ships, what looked like over Centauri Prime of the Shadow ships, just blackening the city, just coming at an extraordinary rate. What is all that about? Why are they there? There's a lot of questions to be answered, and we still have a lot more to go in this season onto this stuff. And it's we didn't get as far as the special effects and stuff like that. I think they did a really good job on that too. That battle scene where they destroy the base on there, and that happened to be pretty good because you saw the shadows just came in and just boom, 1, 2, 3. They were in and out quick to that point, and that was a well shot scene that they did on that. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me for that second. Uh, and also you have all the other characters that fell into play. The Garibaldi Rangers story part line is now adding another part of the story to this of the coming of what else is coming. Now you have a group of Rangers out there on the frontier that are basically watching what's going on. I mean, how much do they know of this situation? How much do they know of the shadows themselves? Are they there on the front where the shadows do show up? We don't know. Only time will tell onto this series. And like I said, this is the beginning of where Babylon 5 begins to shine.
All right. Yeah, just what James' point, the Vorlons of the Shadows. I don't, I mean, I'm speculating. I don't know what the Vorlons are. I'm just throwing stuff out there. Just so you know, Cam and Madman both have seen all 5 episodes and more. Jason and I are pretty much the virgins for the show. And like I said, I mentioned this earlier. I was watching a lot of the show preparing before we started this podcast, but then at some point I decided not to go on any further. So right now, this is the last episode I saw months ago. So from this point on, I have not seen any of the episodes. I know no idea what's going to happen. I think Jason's in the same boat. Jason, that's correct.
Yeah, I have not seen anything past this either.
So so each from now on, we're both going to be coming in and going, I hadn't seen that before.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be a little more free with my speculations and stuff and throw them out there because I don't know anything. I can't spoil what I don't know. But so anything you hear me say about the future, take it as hey, some guy's just speculating. Don't take it as I have no idea. We'll see if I'm right. All right, Jason, your final thoughts.
I'm gonna give it a 8 out of 10. Like I said, the Jakar arc feels out of sync. It's in the wrong order for me. But for the most part, solid performances everywhere. It was good to see Sinclair again, and he's credited in the show as Ambassador Sinclair. So he's moving up in the world. And we've got more for Franklin to do. He's the one that gives the Emperor's message to Jakar, and is basically kind of, hey, I'll be voice of reason here. But then you have him dealing with the Emperor, and he's actually got some stuff to do in this episode, which I find interesting because it's like I've said before, they realized at some point, hey, we've got this doctor character, we should do something with him, and then he ends up getting something to do every episode. It's weird to watch, but yeah, I think the whole deal with Morden and the Shadows is going to come back to bite Londo pretty severely. He knows it's coming. And I think in some ways, I think he may be trying to isolate and insulate Veer a little bit and make sure that whatever happens doesn't splash onto this kid. I think in his own way, he's trying to protect Veer, even though, Veer is right there trying to stop him from doing this thing. Londo already knows he can't protect himself, but at least I can protect Veer. Veer is just going to be following orders. So that I think is going to get something built on top of it too, because Veer's going to come back with an "I told you so" at some point.
All right, Cam.
Well, I think it's one of the probably one of my favorite episodes of the series. A great one for the season, certainly being the pivotal episode. I think I'd say, again, for season 2 scale, it is something like a 9.5, agreeing with Madman. These are momentous events, that will play out through the rest of the series. What's going on here? So I'm a huge fan of this episode.
Yeah, for myself, I think best episode of the season so far, and I'm kind of wondering if it can be bested by anything else in the season. I don't know that it can. Pretty much, very good, very high up there. I'm a big fan of what's seeing the big storyline push on, and this is obviously a hugely pivotal. I mean, everything about this episode is pushing the main storyline. There's no fluff. There's no romance of the week. Any of that stuff. It's right to the important stuff, and we learn a lot about. We learn about the a little bit about the Centauri, more about the big stuff that's going on. So yeah, big fan of this episode. I suspect that it might be the best one of the season, at least. Yeah, like it all around. All right.
There are about 7 or 8 more crucial episodes to come.
Oh,
out of
all right.
The rest of the season. So it's basically we're at, like I said, we're at a starting point. This is the starting gate.
It definitely, yeah. I mean, you're telling me that you've seen it, but I mean, it definitely feels like this is a big turning point.
Even though next week's episode, I don't know how everyone will take it in here, but it is a Dr. Franklin episode.
Yeah,
another one.
Next, this does seem like
this is a full one.
Yeah, this episode seems like the end of the beginning, or the beginning of the main story, something like that. Yeah, you mentioned it. The next episode is Grow Pros, which is Babylon 5 plays host to 25,000 Earth Force Marines, known as Ground Pounders, led by General Richard Franklin, the Doctor's father. So yeah,
played by Paul Winfield.
Oh, I'm going to make a prediction then.
Oh,
because this happens to every single character that Paul Winfield ever plays. He's probably going to die by the end of the episode.
All right. We'll see if that's true. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm sure you guys know, but
it's almost, if you put Paul Winfield and Sean Bean in a project, the bets are going to be which one of them is going to die first, not if they're going to die, just which one's going to die first. Because they always, everybody, they
will die before the end of the season. So
yeah,
you know that. Yeah. All right. Okay. So let's go to let's do our trivia questions. Trivia questions for this episode, real quick. Let's put them up here. I'm still working on how this works. Getting everything up there. I'm gonna turn off the chat. So we can see the questions. All right, Babylon 5 trivia questions. Answers next week. What is the Centauri Emperor's name? I think we gave you that one already. What position in the Centauri government is held by Malachi? Who delivers the Emperor's message to Jakar? Who are the veiled Centauri women? And who does Jakar will his copy of the book of Jaquan? I don't pronounce that correctly. I think we gave you I think we talked about all the answers except for maybe for number 5. That might be the only one that we have not mentioned. But yeah, all right. Those are the trivia questions. Jason, what's going on your show?
Nothing at this point. We're on hold. We got to be at the hospital at 6 a.m. in the morning and in for back surgery for Mindy. So everything else is pretty much waiting on any of that stuff, because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and it's got me a little concerned that we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. So beyond that, we're not making any kind of plan. I was just like, we just got to get through by about noon tomorrow. I think we can start to relax. But yeah, we've got back surgery at 8:15 in the morning, and depending on how that goes, who knows? We may do a members only stream from the hospital on Saturday. I might actually I might dial into Comics Division's show tomorrow night from the hospital, but a lot of it's just going to depend on how the surgery goes. So I'm not looking very far past that right now.
Yeah, right on. Well, our thoughts and prayers are with you. Hope everything goes well.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Madman.
Well, as you know, I was very sick. I had the flu for the last week or so. We didn't have anything going up this week. We're switching to we've done this before, where we've just minimized our show, throw up some good videos, and roll the dice for September on them. We'll be back at full stream by that time period. In fact, we are testing live streaming also on top of that, so we can do some live shows as well. So stay tuned, everybody. Don't jump away. We'll be right here still.
All right. Well, we're not going on hiatus or anything like that. We're still plugging away at our 2 shows a week. This week on the Top Lofty Lounge, we're going to be looking at it's movie night, and we're going to be looking at Colossus, the Forbin Project. That's a sci-fi title of 1970 that one of our viewers suggested. And Cam, you've watched. I haven't watched it yet, but Cam, you watched it, and you
Yes.
said it was. Were you enjoying it or what?
Yeah, I was blown away by it, to be honest with you. I mean, this is a movie from 1970, and I think I texted you while I was watching. I said I'm on the edge of my seat. I literally was sitting here.
Yeah, you did, and I was like, I thought you were being sarcastic, to be honest.
No, I know you might easily believe that, but no,
Cam hates
not
everything, and he liked it. So I mean, that's surprising, right?
Yeah, and I thought the end of it was slower. It wasn't bad, but the beginning was just exceptional. So
There is a sequel book.
there's two sequel books.
Two sequels. Yes, that's right. I'm sorry. 2 sequel books to this story.
Yep.
All right. Well, that should be good then. All of our movie nights you can see for free on the internet, usually through Internet Archive. The link is up in the description on the show. So if you want to just poke, if you're interested, watch the movie beforehand so you can discuss it with us. Go in there and get the link, or just search Internet Archive, Colossus, the Forbin Project. It comes up right away. However you do it, check it out. There's a couple other things on. Did you say you're going to have a tool time on Sunday, Cam? Maybe.
Well, I was expecting to receive the plier that was going to be the center of that today. It didn't arrive, but it's very likely it will arrive by then. So yeah. So
maybe a tool time, and of course I have a bone to pick with Cam on who is a genius, whose IQ is higher. We'll talk about that.
Sorry, the internet already decided that, buddy.
We'll talk about that on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
All right. Cam, did you have anything else?
Oh, I'll just note that you have 615 subscribers now, which I think is one higher than it was. So yay.
Yeah.
So, there's another one. James Casera mentions about computers. Demon Seed.
Yes, Grok actually suggested Demon Seed to me as I was discussing the dangers of AI with it.
Yeah.
So,
a computer that wants to procreate.
Future stuff. What else are we working on? We're trying to. I've got the Subscribestar set up. If anybody wants to check that out, there's not much on there yet. I got to start putting stuff on there, exclusive stuff or early stuff. And we are looking for. We're looking to do a little bit of. I've been reaching out to some other YouTubers. And we're looking to do maybe a little bit about video games in the future as one area, science fiction related ones and other areas too. But that's sort of the next on the block, and we'll see how that goes. I might have had guests on the show in a couple weeks when he gets back from vacation, stuff like that. We'll talk about it. He seems keen though. That's about all that's going on. I think I covered everything. Last minute.
Cam, I'm jealous, man. You got Car Wars, the role playing.
Jason mentioned that on his show, and I happen to have a copy of that.
I have not seen that since
Car Wars.
forever.
Yeah.
Maybe
that was good fun back in the day.
maybe we should do a joint channel auction or a giveaway.
Oh, I want that for myself.
Well, everybody wants it apparently.
Yeah, there's some good stuff. There was some good, of those smaller, kind of RPGs, but not really, like, Car Wars. Dawn Patrol was another sort of that same type of thing.
Gamma
The
World
customization stuff. Well, Gamma World is more of a traditional RPG, I'd say, but yeah. It's Trap. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it. And those of you on Rumble, I had the Rumble for a while. I'm just trying to, sort it out and see how it goes. We will, we'll, keep pushing it on there, and I'll have to do something about that and stuff like that. James emailed me. Yeah, I'll check it out. I haven't finished your book. This week has been crazy. I've been crazy busy with family, personal stuff, which I didn't think, and I thought I'd have a chance to finish it off, but I haven't finished it. But Cam has, and I will. I'm going to work on it tomorrow. I wanted to be done by Tuesday, but that didn't happen. Sorry, but hopefully by the end of this week, I'm going to put some effort into it tomorrow as well. So yeah, we'll get that sorted out. All right. Okay, that's it for the show, everybody. Thanks for coming by. We'll see you next Wednesday or on Sunday. Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Good night.